This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from the world Sarah J. Maas has created and cameo spoiler from Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, with mentions of sex education, legend board, and manacled. For full list, please see show notes. There is also mention of substance abuse.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are celebrating our official 200th episode.
And we say 200th because it's a really big deal. Obviously, we actually have 224 episodes total at the time of this recording. So it's really exciting. And that includes like our pop culture poetry series and our interviews with different authors and special guests and bonus episodes. But this being our 200th episode is such a mile marker and is cause for celebration. I think for a lot of different reasons. I think, Laura, you even pointed out that back in the day when television seasons traditionally had 20 plus episodes, usually it was by the 5th season they would hit that 200th mark. And I can't remember if it's the 100th mark or the 200th mark, but whichever one it was, it indicates that that show would become syndicated. And so that's where all like the shows start getting their residuals, even if it gets canceled at one point. So we're not sponsored. We sponsor ourselves. So we are syndicating for ourselves with 200th episode. Actually, now saying that out loud, I think that 100th is 5 seasons and 200th is 10.
Hey.
Yeah, so we're there. We're beyond that.
Beyond that, but of course we always go above and beyond. Jessica Marie, how are we celebrating our 200th episode?
So we're doing a little something different. We're not doing a book. We're actually going to recap. We thought we were going to put parameters on ourselves. We went into this realizing that's probably not going to happen. But we wanted to revisit episodes, like our top 5 episodes that we've had so far. That we both loved our own. We haven't discussed our episodes. We went beyond the 5. So it's just like kind of our top 5 and some highlights, top 5 and some honorable mentions. But again, before we started recording, we haven't shared those episodes with each other, but we also were like, it was hard to narrow it down for this. So we're also in no particular order and no rank, like what's our first favorite episode or what's our honorable mention, but it's kind of a culmination of those. And I'm very nervous.
And Jessica Marie's going to go first. No! She's going to go first. Yes.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Well, and we both also think that we don't have the same ones. So this is actually going to be...
If we do, I have enough time to pivot.
Yeah. Well, pivot. And I also feel like that's the part where we interject. So I think that's like, okay, this is going to be that episode, like that title. Okay. So I think the first one I'm going to throw in there is and this episode is from 2021. It is our audiobook versus traditional reading episode. Ooh. Did you think it was going to be that?
No, but I was looking at it and I was like, that's a good one.
That was a good one. Well, one of the reasons, because I went back and I listened to the episodes most of them. I think I didn't get to like 2, but there's a reason. You'll know why. I think it was one of our first episodes that wasn't really tied to a book. I mean, I think our 4th or 5th episode was like villains, and we were talking about like villain archetypes and in media. But this was the first one that I felt like it wasn't really tied to a fandom. It wasn't tied to a book, but it was about the overall discussion that was being had in the reading community, on Book Talk, on Bookstagram, on various socials, but is still happening today. And again, I love it because we brought receipts. We brought research. We were talking how ableist it was. We were talking about our personal experiences, how we got into reading, how we got into just kind of like our history. And I thought it was really, really fun to explore and re-listen and also see like if the points we made were valid or they don't necessarily age well. And we've had new studies shared since then. And actually, it's aged very well and if anything, more research has happened and supports all the arguments that we have been in favor for, like why audiobooks is a type of reading and should be considered as such.
Hey, look at us. Hey.
Do we want to, wait, should I go through mine or do you want to do back and forth? Maybe we do back and forth.
Okay, we'll do back and forth.
Okay.
All right. So me, Laura Marie, my episodes, they are all over the place, and I'm going to start with my earliest episode. How about that? This episode dates from 2020 all the way back there. This is our Crescent City episode.
Our second episode. Our first one was our intro.
Yep, our second episode 002, Crescent City. Okay, this episode, I love this episode because here's the thing, right? We are talking about, we have in the back of our head now, the term series fatigue that we have coined here at ACOFAE. And I think of that a little bit with the Crescent City series. I'm just like, but that first book is gold, right? Like that is just on this pedestal that has all of the emotion, it has all the gut punches, it has the action, it has the mystery, you're sucked into the world, it has the friendship, it has the tears, like you're sobbing in that book, right? And I love that we did that book first in the SJM universe. Like that's the one, because at the time back in 2020, I don't know if you remember this, but it was all the ACOTAR. That's all it was. It was all ACOTAR.
Nobody was talking about Crescent City at all. And this was the one that we were like clutching to because it was so similar to our personalities too, knowing these characters.
Because let's remember, take it back to 2020, everyone was like, ooh, it's Sarah's first time writing adult. How is it going to be? Is it going to be a little bit weird? And it was at first. You really have to get into it. Like it was a departure. Everyone is a little hesitant. And then when you get into it and the story and it's good, you're like, remember Crescent City the first one is the book where it's like, that's where the meme of like, I don't understand the first 100 pages. Like that's where that kind of came from because everyone was just like so whirlwind about it. And I love that we chose that episode and it was a 12/28/20 episode. And that's the date. And I love that we did it first. I love that we love that book. I love that you love that book. And that book in particular was not the love story that it was shoved down our throats for the other two books. It was just about the love and friendship. That was the thing. The romance was like secondary to the love of the female friendships that were there. And that was such a departure. Like it was so different and lovely and wonderful. And then, I mean, we know what happened. But yeah, that's one of my favorites.
And I remember that too, because it was like that book had released in March 2020. It was really the second series that I had read from Sarah, because the order that you had me read it in and kind of guided me was the ACOTAR series. And at the time, again, we didn't have all of these books. We had Throne of Glass, which I saved for last, and we had ACOTAR, ACOMAF, ACOWAR, and ACOFAS, and that was it. And then Crescent City. So I read it the first four of ACOTAR, then Crescent City, and then I went into Throne of Glass. ACOSF didn't exist then. None of these. So it's such a good point. And it was like we were able to kind of, and honestly, it was such a chaotic episode. But so fun. I had some memories come up in my socials recently about reactions from that episode. And wow, chaotic, but in the best way possible. And such a good point, because it was politics. It was female friendship in general, doing what's right. And it was just like bigger world, bigger picture. It was, it's still top tier. You can't, I know a lot of people can't grasp it. It was also Sarah's first urban fantasy.
Yeah, so it was different for everybody. And again, it was a time. Like, I do think people like forget the lore about some of this stuff. But okay, Jess, what's your next?
Okay, so I think a good segue into actually one of the next ones that I selected was an episode from last year. It was early last year, either February or March 2024, which is our female friendship episode. I thought that was one of and this is the one that I was telling you earlier that I was getting emotional over it because we were talking about like female friendships and sex education, like how important that scene was. I think it was also such a great episode. And I know and it was probably one of our most, engaging episodes in our DMs because everybody started coming to us. There were a lot of people saying like, well, what about this friendship? This is a good POV. So much so that we're collating that information, to add to a second follow-up female friendship episode in the future. But I thought it was so important that, again, it was another one that we brought research and the importance of female friendships and how sometimes they can become secondary in some of the media that we consume when it really is such a driving force, especially like if you think about 2023 and 2024. And we've had this discussion also about women leading the economy in so many aspects. And I think it was just, we revisited so many episodes and we had the discussion. And I still think like the discussion needs to continue to be had about why is there hypocrisy and the hypocrisy. And you could, if you kind of put multiple characters, if you line them up in a column and you compare them and they have all of the same situations and the same circumstances, but we act and are openly vocal about one character one way. And then again, the exact same comparison chart, but we are reacting a completely other different way. And I still think that if people are able to have respectful discourse and understand that there are different layers to female friendship, and not everything is all or nothing, I think it's important to be said.
Preach it. Preach it. Louder. Louder, louder. That's fantastic. I have an excellent segue. Are you ready for this?
We're knocking these out.
You ready for this? This is episode 24. This is Legendborn from June 7th, 2021. Why am I bringing this up? One, because Legendborn is awesome. The third book is out. Make sure you go get that. But here's a peek behind the curtain. Legendborn was a very conscious choice for Jessica Marie and I. We were reading something else. We hated it. We went here. We're like, yes, absolutely. We put this episode out there and our numbers dropped significantly. If you look at where we are for these 24 episodes, I mean, you can't, I'm sorry, but like, we can. Our numbers from episode 23 to episode 1 are significantly higher than they are from Legendborn after. And all I can say to that is that's a bunch of racist assholes that were listening to us. And I'm glad that they're gone. And I'm glad that you are still here. Because to stop listening to a book podcast because they did a Black author is disgusting and insane, but it is what happened because I can look at the numbers and I can see that and I can see it's that episode. So,
we see that like,
it's a huge drop. It's a huge drop off. So fuck them and fuck all those people because Legendborn is a necessary work. It's a necessary series. It's a necessary conversation. Bree is a necessary character and fuck all those people that say otherwise.
Yeah. And we even did I've stepped away from looking at numbers currently just from like a mental health perspective. But we had covered other authors and stories prior to Tracy Deonn. And I mean, we still continue to cover her because we did the follow-up with Bloodmarked and she has the Oathbound out now that we have yet to cover, but we will. And And we continue to include diverse reading, diverse authors, and year round.
Yep. I don't know what it was about that one in particular, but fuck all of them. Your turn.
They're missing out on Cell. And Bree. More importantly, Bree. Bree has, everybody's always like, Team Cell.
Talk about female friendship.
Yeah. Team fucking Bree. You know?
Bree.
But here we are.
That's where we get before and after. Before Bree, after.
Talk about the time to talk about that. Okay, so the next one I think I'll bring up is, I'm going to say Clockwork Princess.
Oh my God, we actually did get the same one.
I'm so excited.
I chose that one because we're crying in the intro.
Same. Both of us. It wasn't like a one-way cry. But I also think it was such, this is like a good 3. This is like our good middle one that we're both going to go in on. I think it was like, there's so much to encompass. It's the world of the Shadowhunters. It's the first time I feel like I got hooked into the Shadowhunters, whereas I was just kind of reading the Mortal Instruments. There was a quote that you said that you were mocking me in a loving way, where you go, and you told me, I don't think I'm going to cry. I don't think I'm going to cry. And so, this whole episode, you hear us like breaking after we thought we controlled it. It's a bigger picture. It's another bigger picture, bigger world. And it's funny because we talk about series fatigue recently, but then we're also like, bitches love Easter eggs. We are bitches. Like, num, num, num. Give us every single drop. And Clockwork Princess is so much that and more, because you have friendships in every capacity. You have diversity. You have, you have politics at play. You have, the villain and evil enemy that you're trying to protect the world at play. And it's threaded between different centuries, as we know, like the Shadowhunter story as a whole. And again, it was another, and I say it in the episode, and I'll say it here again, that was another thing that Laura shared with me, opened me up to, that I wound up loving. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. And it was the first time that I realized that an author outside of Sarah could make me feel so emotional. And I think that also goes back to the conversation where we talk about chasing that high when it comes to finding a series that you love.
This epilogue remains undefeated every single time. It knocks me out. This epilogue is intense. Just 10 out of 10 on all points. No notes. Everything you said. We are very emotional because it is very emotional. And the world of the Shadowhunters, when you commit to it, is very emotional. And yeah, I love too the conversation about series fatigue. Like, this will knock you on your ass. And then if you know, then you really know, and then it hits even harder. So, some of that information is like really vital. So if you are interested in the Shadowhunters, really just slapping you upside the face with emotions, Clockwork Princess is the way to go.
It's really funny at the end of that episode too. You're like, where do we go next? And then even when I was re-listening to the audio versus traditional reading, you're making references. I mean, this was like, that episode was in summer 2021. So like, you're making references to a lot of Shadowhunters characters that I have no idea, but then re-listening to that episode, I go, oh my gosh, I know that person now. Like, I know the importance of what she's saying there as that example. But again, if I was just listening to that example, and it's part of the reason we also have like spoiler warnings and mentions. Like, there's a difference between like having a full-on spoiler in our episodes and having a mention. You mentioned Shadowhunters. I can still pick up that episode and not have known what was going on and still continue the conversation. So it was like hearing it now with everything that we've read was so exciting. And then even in Clockwork Princess, you do the same thing. You reference James Herondale, and I didn't know who James was. Maybe there's a mention of her son in the epilogue, but then it had me, I had to like, okay, I gotta stop it here, because then you get into the Shadowhunter spiral. And at one point you go, welcome to the Shadowhunters fandom. We're all sad here.
We're all sad here. We're all sat here. We're all sat here. Except Jessica Marie, I'm moving us, except here in episode 92, the Mortal Instruments movie.
The fever dream.
The fever dream. We're not sad here. We're not sad here. I would like to take the time right now to remind our listeners that I have met Jamie Campbell Bower in the flesh, in the airport in London. So he's getting very popular with Quinn and everything that is going on. We are very happy for him. In this movie is fucking crazy.
I keep forgetting that, like, we watched that at like 4:30 in the morning, and and at some point later that day, I had taken a nap, and I woke up and I go, did I dream this? Did we watch a movie?
You couldn't possibly dream this.
No, you could not.
No, you could not. You could not. That episode aired on November 7th, 2022. I love this episode because it's kind of a visual accumulation of everything that's been happening in the Shadowhunters universe. We have, okay, here's the thing. The casting is not bad. Like, the casting is not bad. Like, Jamie's not bad. Like, it's not bad. Simon is perfect. Simon is perfect. I will die on that hill. Okay. But the movie's wild. The effects were not there. The budget was not there. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But as a Shadowhunters fan, at this time is all we had, is all we got. And something that, like, this is all I have. You kind of work with, like, the chemistry that is, Jason Clary. You're like, yeah, okay. Like, okay. Like, all right. All in. Of course, you have the show later, but just this movie was kind of like, putting it all together in a way, because it makes the Mortal Instruments real in a way that's kind of hard in the beginning in that long book series. I think that one day that the Mortal Instruments will be done in a way that isn't super weird and cringy. It hasn't happened yet, but one day maybe.
Third time's the charm? Maybe. Fingers crossed.
Maybe.
I think a great way to pivot to this, I love how this is like kind of getting set up, is, and knock on wood, it's, is that we continue with fandoms and we go over to July 31st, 2023, which is our Manacled episode.
Okay, we had the same one. We had the same one.
I love us. It is our Manacled episode. So while many people around the world are celebrating Mr. Harry James Potter's birthday, we decided to celebrate Draco motherfucking Malfoy. And I'm so glad that we did. There are a multitude of reasons. It's actually one of our I think it is our longest episode. It's because most of the times if it's a really long episode, we break it up into 2 parts. Did no such thing. This episode is like 3.5 hours long. Rightfully so. We explore a new fandom, but more importantly, like, it was this thing that you shared with me that you love so much, Laura. And I think we continue to have these conversations of, like, learning about your friends for years, many years. Like, Laura and I, we've been friends for over 20 years at this point, and we're still learning about each other, and you're still showing bits of vulnerability. And there's so many things that we all can keep very close to our hearts, and we're not sure if we're going to share and show that side of ourselves, because you want to protect it. It's this thing that you love and cherish. And Laura had opened up her heart to show me this thing that she loved. And I'm so grateful and so appreciative, because it opened me up to Hermione. And I had slowly been on Hermione talk at one point in like 2020, but I kind of like flirted in and out of it, not knowing the concept, but knowing in my mind, this makes sense. I never once argued with it. I go, this makes more sense than Harry than Hermione and Ron ever did. I will still stand by that, even in the height of the Harry Potter fandom. So I think it was just such a beautiful, beautiful episode. We explored a different fandom. You shared with me this thing that you love, that I now love. and there are no wrongs. There's so many layers. And what a way to be introduced to Hermione, starting off with Manacled.
Well, it's a canon event. Your first Hermione has to be manacled, and you just have to go from there. It's the canon event. Nobody can stop it. It's just, as you said, it's a perfect story. It's amazing. Of course, it's being published under, a different title and reworked as a fiction book. Amazing stuff that we're going to have there. I picked it for the exact same reason. I picked it as a kind of a beacon of our growth as a podcast, as people, as just comfort, being able to be like, this is a, like, and I know if you're listening, you're like, this is not niche. It is though. Try to have this conversation with normal, I say normal, you know what I mean? Like
with like, quote unquote, everyday, it's like when you talk about like general society. But honestly, like even with Harry Potter fans, I think I told you about two people that I know, that they were reading, I was like, they're huge Harry Potter fans. And I had brought up Hermione and Manacled, and it was just like dead air in that group text. And I was like, okay, this is even niche amongst the fandom. Okay.
And then, people are going to start, when the book comes out, it's going to be a big thing. Everybody's going to start talking about it. But of course, we have it here, July 31st, 2023. Just as you said, we are on air, just gushing over that work. I don't have a good segue. I really don't. But this is my last one. Are you ready?
This is your last one? Or is this including honorable mentions?
This is not including honorable mentions.
Okay. Let's hear it.
This is episode 100. This is ACOFAE Revisited. This is January 2nd, 2023. This is the one that got us bad reviews. People left bad reviews because of me about this episode. They did not agree. They said that I was basically a miserable, whiny bitch and that I can't like anything. However, here's what I have to say about this. I think that it is timely and important, and the fact that we did it in 2023, talking about how social media and talking heads and influencers and an echo chamber can ruin something that you really, really like on your own. That can happen. That happens with TV shows. That happens with movies. That happens all the time. People review bomb things. Like you can lose the magic for something when every like TikTok you see is like shitting on it, right? So like in ACOFAE, during this time in 2023, I specifically used the example that where did we all get that Feyre was a bad painter? That came from social media. Where did we get that Cassian was dumb? That came from social media. And what happens when you superimpose the social media personalities and the social media canon on top of like the actual real stuff? And then it doesn't match up and you get mad. I still think that is a valid conversation to have that we were having in 2023. I'm going to say it here. Now people are talking again about how, oh my God, when Sarah reveals that Reese has been a villain the whole time and he's been brainwashing Feyre and like now it's a magical demon baby. And like people are just going off about that. I'm just like, okay, whoa.
It's funny to see the cycles of some of the same conversations that people are coming new to different social media platforms. And then for us who have been around in like the peak, I don't want to say the peak of it, but at a different time that the conversations have already been had. So it's just like this new cycle. We've gone through this cycle of 5 years. So then like, it's so interesting to see some of the conversations where you and I will literally just like look at our watches, look at the calendar, and we go ahead and say, oh, it's about that time of year. This is when this cycle keeps happening. This is where this discourse is going to start, rearing its head any moment now. And so far we're 5 for 5. with those conversations of monitoring our calendar. So it's really interesting, but I don't disagree with you. Of course I don't. Where those echo chambers and those conversations are happening, because it gets perpetuated amongst like in the same chamber.
Yeah. And it's just a really interesting, I think, phenomenon that kind of happens, that you have an outlet where these characters that isn't fan fiction, right? It's not really fan fiction. It's this other separate thing where these characters develop these personalities and then you put them and they have their own life, right? Like in this own separate thing. And then you read the canon and they're not like that. And you're like, but I get all my giggles from here. Why am I not giggling here? But I think it's just an interesting conversation that's just going to get more and more relevant the more, the more online everybody. I mean, not that people are not like deeply online. We all need to touch grass, but you know what I mean? Like more.
Do you think that it would be, because obviously it's different for everybody. I say for everybody, you and I, we'll say you and I, we know that we can differentiate the two and appreciate the two in their own separate entities. We can laugh at the comedic Cassian canon and also separate that from the actual canon and still find joy in each of them separately. Do you think it's more difficult when people can't differentiate because that's when the your self-imposed canon impacts what you can take away from actual canon?
I think it's a media literacy thing. I think it all just goes back to media literacy and being like able to discern what's happening and to differentiate between things and to be able to like hold two things to be true at the same time, right? And that's a lot of that is media literacy and taking the time to really understand. And as we know, as we know, yeah, those are all my episodes. And I have two honorable mentions. Jess, what do you have?
Okay, so I still have, because I know we crossed over some of them. One of the episodes that I wanted to bring up was our Kingdom of Ash episode. I think this is probably our second longest one because it was definitely over. It was like probably our first longest one though. We wrapped this in January or February 2021. It was the Sunday before ACOFAE came out. So had no grieving period. And it was also just like a different time of where everybody was like, I think we had said, like I had read all of ACOTAR of where we were at that point. Only one Crescent City was available. And then we had all of Throne of Glass, which was completed. And I think it was so special because the emotions were so raw. We delayed recording because I still had, and you were living in Germany. I had delayed recording because I was still finishing. And I was like, if we want to schedule a different day, you were like, no, we're doing this today. I need to be raw. And listening to the episode, there are certain things that I would take back. So it would be like, I know we'll eventually get there to revisiting this series that I've only read once, but it's still so alive and fresh that I feel like, I mean, again, the life has been given to it because of socials, but I think there was just a rawness and we highlighted the important things. Everything was so deep. I think it was also revisiting it showed me that, you know, as much as we've grown as podcasters and as readers and as critical thinkers, those foundations were also always there in the conversations that we were having and starting to just establish as a very new podcast, a fantasy book podcast, a fandom podcast, in a space where there was just openness to hear like, well, what does somebody else have to say about this?
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. Do you remember your emotions with Kingdom of Ash?
I don't think I remembered how raw they were. Mm-hmm. I don't think I don't know if it was like a blackout, but there was like basically every time I opened my mouth, I kept saying like, how am I still crying? I'm so dehydrated. But the things that I remember, because again, I was re-listening to the episode, it was very much yeah, that makes sense why it hit so hard. And I remember editor Sam had even said to you, and this was after Crown of Midnight, that I was like so emotional and you were like, It's Just Crown of Midnight. And he had shared the perspective, she's never done fantasy at this scale, because it was fantasy that didn't, where we talk about ACOTAR as very romance with plot. This was Throne of Glass's plot with romance. And it was probably, I mean, I don't care what anybody says about YA. To me, this isn't a YA book. If you go to, it's also been like sectioned away from YA and is fully in the fantasy genre when you go to libraries and bookstores now. But it was the first time that it was like, oh, this is so much bigger, and I think that that's really special. And that also, like, as you grow as a reader, sometimes things can be very intimidating. And to go back onto the Shadowhunters we've discussed, there's over 22 something books in that chronicle. And when you're a reader that is so used to having many standalones or having a trilogy or, maybe trilogy and a couple novellas, like taking on a 8-book series, if you say that to somebody who's not a regular reader, let alone a regular reader who doesn't read fantasy, that could be very overwhelming.
But you nailed it.
It's so good.
You got it. You nailed it. And you are like, on to the next. Thank you, Jessica Marie.
Thank you. All of these are because of you. So what's an honorable mention that you had?
My honorable mentions are deeply self-indulgent. You will have to forgive me. My first is Donnie Darko.
Really?
Donnie Darko was like a passion project of mine that was just like always in the back of my head. Like, how can I present this? How can I get her to watch this scary bunny movie? Like, what can I possibly do? How can I frame this? How can I make it not scary? Because it's not, it's more, it's different. Like, how can I show that this is like important and like silly, but also Jake Gyllenhaal fucking kills in that movie.
And kind of existential. Like, it's all of these things.
It's all of these things, and all of these things, like, and like, here's the other part. It was very fun to share this with you because I had been watching this movie since high school, and it was like such a part of my life, and like, so I don't know, just like ingrained in me that I was very pleased to be able to share this with you. And this scary bunny movie that I was like, maybe for Easter, maybe I can frame it. Like, I don't know. How can I work this in there?
How did we? You remember better.
You know what? I don't even know, but we got there and it's so fun. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Sometimes you are so familiar with something that you know it, front to back, all the little nooks and crannies, that it's not boring to you exactly, but you find more joy in watching someone else discover it for the first time, because you're like, oh, like, it's fresh and you get to watch that. And I got to watch that with you. And that was just so much fun, because I know this was out of your comfort zone, and I know it was a little bit scary, but like, it's so interesting and leads itself to such a good conversation about so many different things that you could pick apart here, that I was very joyful that we were able to get it on the pod.
It was really, I will say, because I remember the first time I watched it was with you, and editor Sam was in and out of the room. He's like, he's not a shooter. Like, that was the first thing. The disclaimers, he would walk in and out of the room. He would be like, this isn't happening, because then something else would happen. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a teacher. No, it's not. Wherever your mind is going, it's never what you think. But I promise you, here are your disclaimers. It started clicking with me, I feel like, the first watch. And then, because we did the standard version, we watched it twice, but for different reasons. We watched the standard version and we watched the director's cut. Sarah, please release the director's cut of Hofas. But it was when I think I came home after seeing the standard with you, and you were like, okay, now watch the director's cut before we record. And I watched the director's cut at home, and I had a couple questions, and you were like, okay, you're picking up exactly what you're supposed to be picking up. And then I had like all the clickies were happening in my head where everything was like working together. And I sent you a voice memo and you go, you fucking got it. You were like, I was like, is this my gold star? It was so fun because you were like, that's exactly it. Which again, because it's not a genre I typically like, I don't even know if you can say what genre, like it is a genre, but it is a deeper movie than it leads on. Honestly, I thought it was just a horror movie. I was like, oh shit. And this is with the, I don't want to say minimal sci-fi background I have. Obviously, it's not as extensive as yours, but I feel comfortable with sci-fi now to understand, like, if I'm having these questions, it's the questions I should be asking kind of thing, and that they are relevant. And that was really fun because I can't remember a movie that made me think like that in a really long time, to the point that I even brought it up in a work meeting, like as a reference point, and somebody got it. And I was like, okay, this feels cool. Cause it's also so niche.
It is very niche, but it is so knowable if you know, and if you make a reference and somebody gets it, you're like, ah. And it's also something that, like, I find myself, here's a thing that I find myself doing a lot is walking around or like riding a bicycle in a slightly scenic area and having that soundtrack play in my head. Cause like, you know, Donnie, as he's like doing all, or, you know, it just kind of stays with me. So yeah, Donnie Darko, honorable mention, fun as hell. I've got one more. Jess, you go.
Okay, so the one that I'm going to say is plural, and it's my last grouped. I don't want to say that they're honorable mentions, but I'm going to group them together. And there is a reason for that, because there is a thread through all three. And it is an author we've already brought up. And it is specifically, I should have done better with the dates, but yeah, we'll figure it out. It is our ACOFAE Revisited episode, our HOSAB Revisited episode, and then the most recent are like a little bit our HOFAS initial reactions. And I say this because I feel like a tying thread through a lot of these is Nesta. Now, if you go back to our original January 2021 episodes where we are talking about Nesta, we are huge Nesta haters. I'm sure people stopped listening to us when they realized we didn't love Nesta. My disclaimer there, and I've said it every time we've referenced her, is that I deeply despise Nesta. There are a lot of attributes that she has that we could not relate with at a certain point in time. Or there were a lot of actions that she's done where I would say, there are things that I don't like that she does, but there are also things that I do. And I know that's a me thing. That being said, here we are in 2025, 4 years later, and all three of those episodes that we've revisited since, I think if you match them to our first earlier episodes, you see the growth we are as individuals and understanding and being more empathetic. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Obviously, there is growth, but I still think that there is such a conversation surrounding Nesta where people have such a visceral reaction to Nesta haters. And it's also interesting to see that some of the things that we still stand by, like, people are like, oh my gosh, you don't understand Nesta. Well, there are also people who have had a privilege that they don't have to understand what it means to have an intervention with somebody who has substance abuse and, you know, with people that they care about. So I think some of those conversations are still relevant, but I also think that we've shown our growth even on our HOFAS episode, interactions with Bryce, interactions with, there's all your spoilers, interactions with Bryce, interactions with Azriel, interactions as who she is as a character, how all of that ties together. And I think the same thing can be said about just like, I don't want to say like being critical without having joy, but I think like those three books encompass how far we've come. And like, I think you even said in our HOFAS episode, you were like, bold statement from me, Nesta was your favorite part. Like you were like, you know, aside from like probably Lydia, like Nesta was standing on business the entire time. And there was a respect there that, again, I think it just shows that you can grow as readers. And, you were talking about how we've had some, negative feedback because it didn't align with somebody else's feedback, which again, to each their own. We're allowed to have our own opinions. Clearly, we're sharing ours on the podcast. But I think it just shows that you can also, we should also support and be okay if you change your mind about a character, or you've changed your mind about yourself, if you've grown as a person, and you could recognize that. And I think those 3 episodes kind of, and again, not as in depth, but as a whole, you really see that from where we started as a podcast and as readers to that specific character and where we end up. And also all our theories being right.
Excellent point, as always, Jessica Marie. Nesta, what a flashpoint topic! Oh my goodness!
Well, it's still people
is.
are like, and I'm like, you know what? I think a lot of people, even if you don't like her, you learn to, and we say this in our HOFAS episode, if you don't like her, you learn to respect her. And it's hard not to argue with that. And I feel like maybe it's just becoming a canon event that you're like, just stop hating on the Nesta haters. Let the journey figure itself out. You can still not like a character again, but still be like, okay, well, that's for somebody else. It's not for me, but it is for somebody else.
Well said. Well said. You do not have to like everything. Very good. Very good.
What's your one?
My last self-indulgent thing. It is the episode that you, Jessica Marie, let me cover Nefertiti.
Oh.
That episode is very special to me. Again, very self-indulgently. I had no one to share that with. That is a book that I just love so much. I love ancient Egypt so much. And that story is just so fun. That particular book is so delicious and just full of so many wonderful themes and such discussions. And again, just my special interest when I was a kid. And again, just the opportunity to share something that I really love with you, with the listeners, with editor Sam, who had to listen to you edit everything. But it was really lovely. And I am excited then to continue an ancient Egypt thread next time I get a choice for something. I've got one in mind. But it was also, again, I know a lot of people have special interest. It's like ancient Egypt or Greece, ancient,
Greek.
Like you, Jess, and or like English history or the Roman Empire, or the plague. Everybody's got their own very specific thing, but ancient Egypt is mine. And
you know what I just realized? COVID is going to be somebody's.
Oh God. Oh.
That's so fucking wild when people and I'm not talking about the KU book, coronavirus or romancing coronavirus, whichever one. Easy Cat was I read this so you don't have to. It's going to be somebody's Roman Empire.
It absolutely will. And that is just another unprecedented event that we all went through because we can't get a fucking break. But those are all of mine. Ending with Nefertiti, ancient Egypt, because that was just something very close to my heart. You have to pry out of my cold dead hands, and I just love it so much. And I was able to share it with you and everyone.
And it all happened. Yes. Every time we were talking about it, we were and this really happened.
It really happened.
So cool. And honestly, it probably wouldn't have crossed my mind to make that a topic that I get so enamored with when I see it in the news now. I think I sent you a link recently from Popular Science, and you were look at the colors. And I was look at the colors. That's it now. That's it now. And I think it's also something that we always are just in awe of, that it was only found, refound. And I say refound, I mean, it's been around, but rediscovered because of artifacts and archaeologists in the 1900s that we started to explore and understand her history more.
Okay, I am finished.
So what are you currently reading now? I mean, this week was kind of like a freebie week. We went to we weren't really we were like, let's just read whatever we want to read. Like, what are you reading now? And if what we're reading now, would that be something we explored on the podcast in the future?
Great question. I was wholly unproductive with anything else this week, and I blew through. When I tell you I blew through these books, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Artifacts of Oranos. I just finished Tale of the Heart Queen, book 4. I finished it 20 minutes before we started recording. Hot damn. Sucked in. Those are by Nisha J. Tooley. Holy crap. Are they great? Are they entertaining? Hell yeah. Did I know where it was going? Not really. Did I think it was going to go there? No. When I reread it, would I skip book 2? Absolutely. Holy crap. What a ride. What a world that was built there. Wow. A mini series would fuck that up. That would.
Would you want to cover it on the podcast, or is it one of those books where you're like, it's, you know how sometimes you're like, we read a lot of books, obviously, aside from what we're reading on the podcast, but that doesn't necessarily mean we would cover them. Ice Planet Barbarians is a great example. I think I'm like 8 books through, but would be covered on the podcast? Probably not. So would you want to explore it more? Or you're like, you know what? Pass.
Because I blew through it so much. I know exactly, obviously, how it ends, but I know how it starts because, I don't know if I could, honestly, I don't know if I could get through book 2 again. I really don't. It's so frustrating, and not in the frustrating way that Diem from Everflame is frustrating. It's frustrating in a way where it's just like, shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. What are you doing? Just shut the fuck up. And it's just like that the whole time. It's like, are you blind? Are you blind? You must be blind or else you're fucking stupid. Like, I don't know. What is it? And it's like that for the whole book. And then book 3 is and book 4 are fine. So I don't know. If we did it, you'd have to do book 2 on your own. They are all like medium length. They're not short. So that's also something when you consider a series fatigue situation and the validity of time spent, right? That's just like those factors that you have to weigh into the equation of starting something like this, because the first book is like it's gimmicky, right? It's trials, it's games, it's games. And then when the games are complete, the plot takes off. You know what I mean? Like it's that situation, and the books also pull so many. There are so many different ways to use tropes and ideas and popular stories and like reworking all of those things. And there's so much of that in here that it's just like, is what I'm remembering from this book, or is what I'm remembering from another book that is also kind of using this same fucking thing? I don't know though, but am I stupid or am I just too in, you know what I mean? So it was one of those. So excellent questions. But here's the thing, if they are at your local library, because the first 2 absolutely are, the first 2 in this series are at your local library, give it a go. Why not? Use your libraries.
Yeah, use our libraries. Is it a completed series?
Yes, done.
Oh, so 4 books done. That's nice. Because sometimes I feel like, again, not to like drone on the series fatigue, sometimes it's like you want to commit to a series, because I think a lot of us also, sometimes we want to stand alone, sometimes we like a series because the world is already established. And if you're like, well, if it's not completed, do I really want to like invest time into it? And I think the same goes with like a TV show.
What about you, Jessica Marie?
So, funny story. I started reading a book that was all over socials, and I was like, it was like one of those all over socials where I kept seeing the cover. had no really idea what it was about. But it was actually by an author that we've both read and enjoyed, Ali Hazelwood. I'll say it here. It was Deep End. Could not get into it. And I was like, and it was available at my library. I got it. It was the audiobook was available at the library. So it became available. I could not get into it initially. And so I was like, but I want to read something, and I think you went through this also earlier, the last week or two, that actually got you into the series you were just talking about, where you were like, you kept picking something up, you wanted to read, but nothing was hitting. So I'm getting to tell you this now, that I picked up All the Wrong Things. So I knew you were going to be so excited. I was waiting for this episode to tell you. So I picked up All the Wrong Things, and
didn't put it down because you can't.
Well, I haven't yet. And I started I think I got through the first couple chapters. It spearheaded my want to read, and I was like, you know what, because I was reading All the Wrong Things traditionally through ebook, and so now I'm fully in okay, All the Wrong Things. I have my momentum going for the ebook. Then I have the audiobook for we were talking about again in our audio and traditional book reading, where we were when you're able to multitask and you have to do all these other things. So reading All the Wrong Things got me to go back to Deep End. So when I was multitasking and commuting and all of these things, which it leveled out. Honestly, it was a me thing because I'm not super I don't really watch swimming outside of the Olympics or diving, same thing. So it is a sports romance in a way, but conversation is there, and there is an appearance. And I say this because I know you won't read it. There's an appearance by your man, Dr. Adam Driver, Dr. Carlson himself. And
Dr. Carlson! Dr. Carlson, what are you doing here?
Dr. Carlson! And he's the professor of the student who the story is about. She's going pre-med or whatever, and he's one of her professors. And she's and he and there's actually a couple scenes with her because he recommends her to work with his fiance. So it's a whole Ali Hazelwood world. It's really cute. I haven't finished it yet, but I think the important thing to note is that we started All the Wrong Things, which obviously I know that is, I have to read. We've already done The Right Thing to Do, which means will be able to, will we be recording an episode of All the Wrong Things? Yes, we will. We will be doing, and once we have that finished, we get to do our The Right Thing to Do / All the Wrong Things episode, and then we could go into the auction.
Then we can go into the auction.
And so I know you're so excited. So we will be covering that one. So I was very excited to tell you, and I've been waiting all week to record to tell you.
Hell yeah. We love Draco's POV there. Oh my goodness. Nobody does it like Draco Malfoy.
It's short then too. My ebook was it's only, I say this really funny. It's only 700 something pages. And in my head, I was like, that is such a short,
Draco, abridged.
That's such a short Hermione book. Okay, I could totally do this. And as we know with Hermione fanfic, you don't even know. It's when people bookbind, you see what they print out and you're like, shit, I read all that.
But we love that. And honestly, Draco spearheading your joy for reading again just makes so much sense, doesn't it? He's always there for us.
So that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. We're also new to YouTube. And let us know where you want to find us on socials. You can find us slowly on Please Sky and all of the things. We'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.